Hey.
Oh, hello. Whoops. I thought you.
I can see we're already live.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was going to start it without you and then you were going to jump in. But anyway, all good, all good.
Cool. Right. I see people are already here. I love it. Let's dive straight in.
Oh, really amazing. That's beautiful. All right. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Let me shift to the old gallery view so we've got a nice, pretty picture of both our pretty faces. So welcome to episode 2 of Galactic Chats. I'm here with Eesha Patel. Many of you already know her, and so I won't bother introducing her. We'll just get into it. So we finished our last episode, opening up a huge can of worms, and we thought we'd save it for this episode to have a whole conversation on the one subject that's so very interesting. We're calling it Twin Flames. I want to dive into the wording of it myself personally, and I want to dive into what Eesha's experience with that is, and open it up to you guys as well as you're watching. Please feel free to write in a comment or a question, and I'll be checking them and hopefully letting them and introducing them to the conversation as well. So, all right, Twin Flames. Eesha, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? What is this concept? How is it created, and what do you know about it?
Okay, we are opening such a massive can of worms today. I want to pre-frame a couple of things first.
Good.
What I'm going to share today is going to be my story. I don't claim to be an expert on twin flames. I know enough about twin flames that I can talk about it because I've been through what's not a twin flame experience, and then also come into a deeper understanding of what that actually looks like. I have a very deep understanding of a lot of the misconceptions around twin flames and a lot of the ideologies and a lot of what not to do with twin flames. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say on that. But I guess coming back to your initial question of, like, what is a twin flame? I think it's important to first define that a twin flame, firstly, isn't actually a twin flame. I think the name itself is absolutely ludicrous because it creates already this idea of separation.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest misconceptions I see in the entire twin flame community is that they think that when people come to Earth, we come in this masculine, feminine polarity, which doesn't, when I say masculine, feminine, I don't mean male and female. I mean like embodying masculine and embodying feminine as a primary frequency in your being, which isn't necessarily correlated to that the masculine is in the male and the feminine is in the female, because it doesn't have to be that way at all. But yeah, so one of the biggest things I see is people think that it sort of comes into these two rays, and when you're on Earth, there has to be a polarity. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is completely incorrect in how that works. So the way that I came into my twin flame journey and my understanding of this was through an interaction that I was absolutely 1000% sure was a twin flame connection. Now, again, the pre-frame to this is there was a lot of backstory that led me to believe that, and I had a lot of solid reasoning for that. Some of that reasoning included when I was about to meet this person, I entered into like I think a few months before actually meeting this particular person who I thought was my twin flame, who I won't be naming at all. This person came into my life completely unexpectedly. And a few months prior to that, I actually had this experience in meditation of myself merging energetically with a being at the highest vibrational level that I could imagine. And it was the most orgasmic, expansive experience I've ever had in my life. I'm talking like a full body energetic orgasm, like real deep, integrated, loving experience that was very physical and very tangible. So that happened for me in, I believe it would have been about November 2015. And then 2016, this person waltzed into my life. And when this person was entering my field, what happened was I was doing these card readings, right? And so, just like oracle card decks, and literally 5 different decks of cards gave me their version of the twin flame card. Like one of them actually said twin flame, and I didn't want to listen to it. I was in my denial phase with all of this. I was like, no, this is bullshit. Like, I didn't even want to go into it. And then so I picked up another deck and it told me something about like soulmates, and it just sort of kept going. And then the lover card came up and something else came up, and it just sort of escalated. facilitated. So this was like 5 different oracle card decks, and this was all in one evening, by the way. This was all in one night. Like this was an event I was attending that was at my studio. So I was at the studio, someone else was facilitating. There were multiple card decks there, and we could choose any of these decks. And so I picked one, didn't like it, picked another one, didn't like it, picked another. By the time I got to the 5th one, I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, this is crazy. And so I just sort of had that in my awareness that, okay, there's a twin flame dynamic that's coming into my field. And I just sort of sat with that. Now, when this person came into my life and my awareness, I had no desire for, I don't think I was even looking for a relationship. I was still in a phase of just, awakening, and I was very new in my business. I wasn't even thinking about having a partner, like nothing like that, but then this person comes into my field, and he actually started off as a client of mine, and we met through some friends, and I was doing some channelings, and then he ended up doing some one-to-one sessions with me. And in the very first session that we did together, I was teaching him how to activate his Merkaba light body. And I'd done a bit of this work before already, so I had taught this to other people. And then when he came along, my light body and his light body completely merged inside the session. And I was just like, what is going on here? This is crazy. Like, just energies like completely just intertwined, and I could feel so much that was going on in his field, and I'd never experienced anything quite like that before, and especially not with a client. Like I felt it was definitely going into some territory that was very, very new for me. So I had that experience, and again, nothing happened there, and I continued coaching him, and he stayed my client for another few months. And then a little bit later on down the track, I was hosting an energy sharing circle. And this was around the same time that I was receiving all this information about origin activation and about healing and all that sort of thing. And at one of these circles, we all paired up to exchange sessions on each other, and he ended up pairing up with me. So I was laying on this massage table, and he's doing this energy healing on me. And there was this meditation that I'd had a few days before, where I'd gone into my inner heart space, and I'd seen this it was like this cube of light that was just kind of sitting there in my inner heart, and I knew it needed to open up. And my guides actually said to me, it'll open when this particular person comes into your field. It was like, you need him to do this. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? I can do this myself. I don't need another person. Like, again, there was like all this denial coming in. But so when we were in this session, and he was facilitating for me, I went into that space, and I saw that little box, and the whole cube opened up, and I was standing at the edge of the universe, and everything just went really cosmic and expansive. And I was like, holy moly, like what is going on here? So I had a number of experiences like that, which really led me to believe that this person was my twin flame. One of the other, I guess, things that happened for me was, at that time, I just started doing this inner heart meditation practice, where I was going into my multidimensional heart, and I was really experiencing life from that multidimensional space. Now, I had met this person, I think maybe just days, if not weeks, before me learning this inner heart practice and going into these realms. And every time I went into my inner heart, his energy was in there, like all the time, And I was sitting here going, why is this person's energy just constantly in my field? So again, it was another sign to me that said, oh, I think this person is my twin flame. Now, add to that levels of 3D reality. For example, so we met, and then shortly after we met, he actually went off overseas on a trip, and he was doing ayahuasca in the jungle. And I remember being like sitting at uni, like I was sitting here finishing off my teaching degree at this point, and I was I think 4 or 5 weeks away from my final examinations. And so I'm trying to be a good student, like sitting in class, like taking notes and stuff, and literally started hallucinating in class, like getting full visuals, like the whole thing just got so trippy. And I messaged him, I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm just about to go into ceremony, I've just taken ayahuasca. And I was just like, I'm like, dude, you got to stop, like what is this? I actually had to leave the classroom, and I just sat outside by a tree, and ended up just journeying for the afternoon with him, because the energy was so intense, and that connection was so it was just so activated at that time, that what he was experiencing was what I was experiencing. And at the end of this journey, I actually explained to him, some of the things that I saw, like the visuals and the energy and the flow, and it was so in sync with everything that he was experiencing, to the point where I was like, this is crazy, like what is going on here? So yeah, I mean, all of those pieces led together put together actually led me to believe that this person is my twin flame. And it was one of the strongest energetic connections that you could ever have, like with anyone, you know. And so I'm gonna, you know, spoil this a little and say, fast forward 3 years, I actually realized this person was not my twin flame. And so this is the thing, it's like there's so much subtlety in that space, and there's so much fine tuning, and this is where people can get really confused. So yeah.
Well, what was that then? Is there a way to like discern that?
It was a very, very, very strong soul connection that was there to be a catalyst in my growth. And every time I went into that space and I journeyed into, you know, my inner heart, or I questioned it, because so here's the thing, nothing romantic ever happened between the two of us. So that was the other thing. I was like, okay, I'm in this like energetic connection with this person who's not even in the country. Like most of this 3 years we spent in different cities or different countries. So we were hardly ever actually physically together, and nothing romantic ever happened between us. And there were, I mean, by the time I was halfway through that, I was just frustrated. I was like, this is annoying, because, you know, like I wanted this energy out of my field. I actually got to a point where I didn't want it there anymore, and I didn't want to feel what he was feeling, and I didn't want to feel like, for example, when he had other sexual partners, I could feel that, and I didn't want to feel that. You know, like that was just, it was too intense.
What did you learn from that?
Well, this is the thing. So I asked our family over and over and over again. I said, how am I supposed to navigate this space? We've got a big thunderstorm happening here tonight.
So do we. Where are you?
We're in the same city.
Ah, I'm hearing the thunder you just heard.
Yeah, you're in the Gold Coast, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got back the other day. So anyway, what happened was staff family, they said to me, they were like, you just have to keep rising higher. And that was all they said to me. And this is the other thing, right, Dylan? So they never actually ever 100% confirmed nor denied whether he was or wasn't my twin flame. And this is where the whole thing got really frustrating for me, because the number of times I went into my inner heart and I connected with Sananda, and I connected with Archangel Michael, and I connected with all my other guys, and I said, you know, I said, is he my twin flame? And they never gave me a solid yes or no. And every time I asked, how do I navigate the space, they said, rise higher, rise higher, right? That was the only 2 words I got. And so for 3 years, I had to keep raising my frequency and just keep sitting in that space and keep centering and keep connecting with my energy and keep coming back to love. Because ultimately, you know, 3 years down the track, the biggest lesson I learned from all of this, I wouldn't even call it a lesson. The biggest gift I gained from all of this was how to be unconditionally loving to myself and to the people in the world around me and the people that I'm connected to, and how to be so expansive yet centered and grounded in my energy field that I was able to hold that connection for 3 years. And that, I mean, I would never change that. I would never do it again. There's no way in hell I would go through that again. But I wouldn't change that, because the gift in that has been so beautiful and landed me in a space of absolute clarity within my field, that when I did come out the other end of that and realized that we weren't twin flames, I realized what twin flame actually means and how so many people are getting it wrong.
Yeah, I think that teaching though is just so essential, and I think it's just so missed in the whole, everything I've read and heard from people about the twin flame thing. It misses the point of coming back to yourself, unconditional love, expanding your energy field, and just rising and rising and keep going in that higher energy and higher vibration, where it feels like this is where I'm weird about this whole conversation, putting it on twin flames, because that twin flame consciousness, if I jump into it, it's like, oh, it's like a lot of, and I've been there too as well, like this desperation of trying to complete myself from the outside and always missing, and it's just this pure like coming from lack, and it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like has any integrity or authenticity. And like I've had that journey too, in a way where I have to like fully like let go of like these ideas and this sense that someone out there is going to make me feel whole, and it causes a lot of pain, actually. I think those sort of dynamics, and it sort of causes a lot of separation. And so yeah, it's interesting. So okay, how can we talk about twin flames and like have something solid? Is there something like really like, can we ground this? Because it's very out there. It's very like, no one's going to relate to this stuff. And is there a way to do that?
I think I think the biggest thing people can do right now, I say this quite honestly and quite frankly, is stop trying to find your twin flame,
Yeah.
because your twin flame isn't outside of you. It's actually inside of you. If you want to find your twin flame, sit in meditation. If you want to find your twin flame, find your heart flame and connect with that space. So for example, my 4 foundation practices is designed to connect you to your inner heart flame. That is how you connect to the energy. And it is nothing outside of you. It is nothing external. It's not like a counterpart to you. It's actually you. And this is why even the wording of twin flame makes no sense to me, because it's not twin flame, it's one flame. When you understand your one flame, you realize that it has never been separate from you anyway. Does it have a form? Yes, absolutely, because the way that this universe is threaded together, there are forms in that. And I know plenty of people actually who are connected with their twin flames at the higher dimensional galactic level. So this is the thing, like, most people's twin flames aren't even on Earth. 99.9% of the time, you actually come onto the planet, you incarnate, and your twin flame is guiding on above. And this is done specifically so that, those of us that are here to awaken humanity and actually be here in service, we've got those anchor points. Because what happens is when both aspects of that, they come in that dual form on this planet, if both of you are under the veil, it's very difficult to actually hold that flame. It just adds so many layers of like distortion in that frequency. So the easiest way to do it is actually to have your twin flame in the higher dimensions, guiding and anchoring, overlighting from above, and then having you on the ground level. Because it keeps it in that oneness rather than in that duality paradigm. In saying that, there are some twin flame couples that are here on Earth, and they're here on very specific missions to actually bring their flames together in the 3D, and it's a very vital part of planetary ascension. But this is the thing, right? What I've learned is that the true twin flames, like actual true twin flames, don't have all the chaos that people excuse to be part of like a twin flame dynamic. I've literally seen people stay in abusive relationships thinking that it's their twin flame and that it's all lessons and they just have to learn it. It's like, no, there is no sovereignty in that. There is no self-love in that. You want to find your twin flame, love yourself first. Don't put up with abusive behaviors. Don't put up with shitty relationships. Actually get clear on what you want and start loving yourself, because then you will be in a frequency to connect with the internal twin flame that is inside of you, that has nothing to do with like, the matrix of lessons and all that rubbish that goes on the outside.
Yeah, I got my best definition of the twin flame I've ever seen is like, your twin flame is your external reality. It's like the totality of your external reality. Can you come into harmony with that? And that's coming into harmony with like unity and unity consciousness and everything. I just want to tap back. Would you, like, from what I'm just picking out, would you say then the flame is like the frequency of the heart?
Well, if we're going to be specific about it, your twin flame is actually like, when we're talking about soul energies and stuff, you've got the rays of light that come down. So for example, I'm coming through largely through the Gabriel ray, which is my 5D self Lily, and the Ash, which is like Ashura, Ashtar, Ashira, like that whole spectrum. And from that, there are actually threads that intertwine through. Like, for example, Ashtar and Amara, they're twin flames. So Ashtar and Isis, or Thoth and Isis, Ashtar and Amara, they're twin flames, but it's because they have one flame that is expressing in these masculine feminine counterparts. It's not that it's like two souls come together. It's one flame. And the distinction is that in these realms, I mean, so I see everything through the inner heart space, right? And the biggest misconception that I saw was when I was in this connectedness with this other person, I always used to see the flame as like the Trinity flame. So the red and the blue and the gold in the middle. And it was two flames spiraling around each other. When that dynamic actually left my field and I came back to my flame, it was actually one flame. It was one flame. So this whole time there was that what was actually happening with this other person was a soul merge, and it happened from the higher self level all the way down. Because here's the other piece, right? And again, why I thought he was my twin flame. When I tuned into my higher self and his higher self, we shared the same higher self, because at the higher self level, it was actually, I got the name Hirana Akim, but it was hyphenated. And that's how it always was from when I connected way like years and years and years back. When this dynamic left my field, I tuned into my higher self, and it was just the Hirana part, because that's me,
Uh-huh.
that's Hirana, that's my higher self. Akim was actually his. But from the higher self level and everything below that, so the 5D level, the 7D level, the 9D level, everything was in an absolute soul merge, even down to the flame that was spiraling around each other.
So it's just like a temporary coming together so that some information can get exchanged, or
major catalyst, and you would only do that with someone who is in a very, very strong level of soul connection with you. And I mean, it comes from the deepest place of love. Like at a soul level, you know, we agreed to do this. I mean, the fact that it happened at the inner heart level and it happened at the higher self level and it happened at like all the other soul levels, I was like, wow, this isn't something that I just decided, you know, that I wanted to place this label on this person and say he's my twin flame. There were actually so many other layers to this. But also what I want to really keep iterating in that is, even with all of that, that was not enough to say that that was my twin flame, because this is where people get confused.
Yeah.
They'll go into the higher self levels and they'll go into all those spaces and they'll say, oh, this person's my twin flame. The only determining factor if somebody's a twin flame or not is by going into your inner heart flame, and you will see one flame. And when you see that one flame, that is your energy. Anything that is not that is a variation of like a soul merge or a twin soul connection or a soulmate connection, or there's all sorts of varieties.
Oh my God.
You know, in this. And this is the thing, like, you know, one of the reasons, Dylan, I was so hesitant to have this conversation is because my inbox now is going to get flooded with people that are like, oh, was so and so my twin flame? And the answer is probably no. Like, it's probably not, you know, because most people's twin flames aren't actually on earth. We just have soul connections that are here to awaken us.
Yeah.
Of which there are many, you know, like relationships are one of the fastest ways to catalyze us into the awakening of self, because when you're in particularly a romantic relationship, there is such a deep mirroring that happens of your reality and their reality, and, you know, all the projections come in, and then, like, you know, you can go into the framework of like the masculine and the feminine, and then each person's masculine and feminine connecting with the other person's masculine and feminine. You can get into that whole framework if you wanted to. Which ultimately they're all mirrors of each other, right? Because you attract, like in relationship, you typically attract the shadow, like your shadow masculine and your shadow feminine is what will be the primary traits of the other person if you have unhealed wounds and you're still in that like 3D karmic sort of way of relating with people, which a lot of people still are. So if you're coming from that paradigm, what happens is you are constantly being shown mirrors of those masculine feminine traits within yourself as like as a way for you to recognize the parts of yourself that need to come into wholeness. So when I was in this non-twin flame dynamic, I saw all the parts of myself that hadn't been healed. And I'm telling you, for 3 years I went through trigger after trigger after trigger in all these dynamics, which got so much worse and I guess so much more amplified because there was nothing romantic. It was like having all the the roller coaster of a relationship without any of the good parts, you know. In the sense that, and I just want to frame as well, there were some beautiful parts as well. He's a beautiful person and I love him dearly, and if he ever listens to this, there's a lot of love in this, but there was like all the drama part of it without actually having a relationship.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so the connections, like in this case, it's still there. And if you came together, would it still be as strong? Or do you think like it's like that's gone, it's kind of past?
Oh, that's a good question. I have been intentionally keeping some distance there for the last year or so.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, like that connection has been so strong in the past. And even though now I feel this person's energy has left my inner heart and is no longer in that space, I'm not sure what would happen if we ever were to meet physically, which we haven't done in a while. I don't know how that would go down. So I haven't, I really haven't entered that space. I think it would be okay because, you know, I've shifted so much in the last year. I think that connection wouldn't get reignited. And I think that I am quite strong in my own flame energy, that I'd probably be able to be in the same room as a person, have a conversation with them, and still be centered in myself. But there's still that little bit of residual, I guess, energy from what it used to be like, which was that every time we used to meet up, there was like this cataclysmic explosion of energy that would impact both of our lives. At the most practical level, it was like there were times when I started dating people, during, during those 3 years. And then I would come to the I would meet up with him, or I would like call him or receive a message from him, or like something would happen to reignite that connection, and the other person in my life would just suddenly disappear. And this happened repeatedly. And the same thing happened for him, because there was a point where we were both seeing other people at the same time, and it started within like a couple of days of each other. So he met someone, I met someone, we both started these things, and then something happened and we ended up having this big long conversation. This cataclysmic thing happened again within 24 hours. We've both separated from those people. So there was so much mirroring and interweaving throughout that process that it was quite yeah, it's quite interesting to observe how the energies were affecting each other, because there were, what we were consciously choosing in our lives, but then there was what was happening energetically, and these people were being polarized from our lives just by us coming together.
Wow, very, very powerful. So then what are you looking for? I mean, we're talking really hypothetical, but like if a real twin flame relationship existed for you, say, or like for someone, what are you suggesting is different or layered on top of that? Because that sounds really amazing and powerful already, but obviously, but it didn't have the romantic aspect, hey, and it didn't have the sexual aspect. So would that much more be involved in the twin flame merge?
Well, I wouldn't put a blanket rule on anything. I mean, I know there are twin flame couples on Earth who found out they were twin flames and were already married and decided to have a beautiful heart-centered friendship, and then I know other twin flame couples who discovered they were twin flames and then left all, their lives and came together and, and did all that as well. But actually the majority of twin flame couples that I know are actually one in 3D, one in the higher realms.
Yeah.
So I only know like a couple of actual twin flame couples on this planet, and everyone else who comes to me and says so-and-so is my twin flame, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Because I can feel the frequency of a twin flame now, and I know when somebody's in a twin flame dynamic and when they're not. And I know, this is a cosmic joke, Dylan, I know what my twin flame connection feels like, but they still haven't told me who my twin flame is, in the sense that it doesn't have a form and it doesn't have a name. And they've told me many, many times that they'll tell me when the timing is right, and that right now I'm not supposed to know. And I've even helped other people connect with their galactic twin flames. And when other people come to me, I can see their solar space, I can see their twin flames. And yet when I try and tune into my own, and I get the reason behind this, I fully understand why this is happening. There's always been that little bit of buffering there, because one of the things I've heard is that there is actually a strong chance that my twin flame will actually be coming to Earth as either a walk-in, or if we can get through this next phase of the ascension timeline, there will be a possibility for some of these beings to come like in their light body 5th dimensional forms on Earth.
Yeah.
And there's a very strong likelihood of that actually happening for my twin flame energy. And there's so many reasons right now. Like there are things that I need to go through. There are things I need to experience. There's certain energetic connections that I need to experience, and things about myself that need to first happen before I can enter that space. And I know sort of what those things are. And so, yeah, it's become a little bit of a cosmic joke in my own life. Is like, I can see everyone else's energies connect to everyone else's twin flames. Like even my friend who's got, galactic twin flame, I connected with him before I even met her. This is Joanna and Ashura, whose twin flame is Arnap. So I connected with Arnap, who's a 5th dimensional being, like a year before I even met my friend. So,
you're pretty sure that your twin flame isn't a human right now?
No, my twin flame is 100% not on Earth. I know that, like 1000% absolute certainty, because I do connect with the energy, and I know when I'm sitting in the energy, and I know when I go sit in my inner heart flame that I can connect with the energy. And so I have given up this concept of trying to find my twin flame on Earth, because I know they're not here. It's like, I know they're always with me as well. And so here's the other thing, right? If I ever enter a relationship with somebody, I know that it will actually be just due to my connectedness with this twin flame. The connection would actually have to be like a 4-way between me and the person and both of our twin flames. There's no way that I'd be able to enter a relationship with somebody without having those two counterparts coming in. And it actually ends up being like the double infinity cross. It actually creates this 4-way energetic connection that stabilizes the connection in 3D as well as in the higher realms. And so it's a whole other way of, I guess, relating and connecting to people, because it's something that when you understand what's happening at the energetic level, it's like both of us would need to be connected to our heart spaces to have that level of awareness with both of our twin flame energies. And so then you can have a 3D relationship that's also at a twin flame level as well.
Wow. And then, so there's so many different potentials here. And like what, basically for me, anyway, my journey, it's come to a point where I've started just to release so much of this stuff, these concepts, because just like, I just feel like me and my heart is like, that's really where I'm at. And that's really what's important. And that's really like what I listen to. And that's my twin flame. That's my guide. That's my soulmate. And it's my everything. Otherwise, I just end up losing my energy to these ideas. If I'm not centered in that, if I'm centered in that and I meet someone and there's this amazing connection, then it's actually, what it seems to do is accentuate my internal connection even more. It's also what I've been seeing, like I've been watching some people online, and they're in these relationships, and they're both very, you know, awake and anchored and very beautiful. And they talk a lot about that being like the reason they're coming together is actually to create the third energy. It's not necessarily for themselves or for the other person. It's what happens when they meet. And I've experienced this with people, or we just naturally experience this. When two people come together, the creation the potential creation, the light that can come through, if you're both heart-centered and open and anchored, then it's not like 1 + 1 is 2. It's like 1 + 1 is infinity all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting is like, that's why relationships exist. That's why there's man and woman. And that's kind of like why there's this earth and this 3-dimensional polarity thing is, so when we come together, we experience something that's way beyond in my individual creation. What do you make of that? And that sort of, I guess that's where I'd like to call that more sacred union or divine union or something like that, because it really brings the God out in people, brings the light out in people, and people can feel that.
Right. It's funny you say that, you know, like in my mind the other day, I was creating this workshop in my brain on sacred union, like what it actually means to be in sacred union. And it starts first and foremost as the internal marrying of, you know, those aspects within ourselves that might still be in duality and in polarity, that then allow you to meet another from wholeness to wholeness rather than through all the different parts. And I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head with the 1 + 1 = infinity. Because I always used to say, every time I felt that connection in my heart space, it was like 1 + 1 = 3. And that's the way that I saw it, because it was it was like two flames coming together. But the part that I always was drawn to was the gold light in the middle. And it was always this creation energy. And that always felt like the most potent part of what was coming through. And so when this dynamic actually left my field and I came into my own flame, that creation part was still there. That creation part was still very present. And I realized that, you know, relationships in 3D, it's to do with, like, we live in a trinary universe. So the codes at the galactic central sun of this universe that we live in, it's the 27 codes. This is the whole like Messier 27 thing that I've been tuning into all year. And there's the whole thing about like the trinity nature of this universe, and how as things have gone into 3D, there's been more of that polarizing of just like, you know, duality. But this is not actually a dualistic universe. It was actually a trinary universe, and it's very much focused on the creation aspect of what comes when you bring two pieces together. Now, I had a vision many, many years ago when I saw how the light actually interacts and how the sound interacts in this universe to create something. And I got shown that when these beams of light come together at like the highest frequency of their light existence, it's like the light comes together in particular geometric formations to create something new. It could be something as simple as like, you know, two beams of light come together and it could create like an atom, say, or creates like something, you know, like something is created from that. It's how the light and the geometries interact. So when you have people coming together, so say two people like masculine and feminine coming together, it's what is being created in that space between them that is then radiated out through the universe. And when that's done consciously, it's one of the most powerful things you can do in this universe. And for me personally, I'm way more interested in what can be created inside of a relationship than just having the relationship. Because this is where, you know, I've been in some pretty unhealthy relationship dynamics in the past myself, where the whole thing's been focused about the relationship, and the whole relationship is like a conversation of, do you love me? Are you going to leave me? And there's so many contracts, like underlying contracts of like, I'll do this for you and you'll do this for me, and contracts that are unsaid. Like there's a lot of shadows in that. There's so much in that. But when you're entering into a 3D relationship that is of a dynamic where you're both consciously focused on what's being created, then that creation goes out into the universe, and that creation actually is able to build something that otherwise doesn't exist in this particular realm. And when you see relationships as a means to create, then suddenly you can dissolve and drop all these like ideologies of what a relationship should be in this life. Because I think a lot of the thing about twin flames is that, you know, this idea that, oh, I've got my one true soulmate and that's the person that's going to be with me forever. And it's like, I get that, but maybe that's not what ascension is about. Maybe that's not what this dynamic is about. And everything I've seen in the higher dimensions is there is so much free flow in those relationships and inside of like how people come and go. I can give you an example. So when I was in this non-twin flame dynamic, I had a being that his name is Tannenbor. I've spoken about him a few times. He's Order of Melchizedek, Great Brotherhood of White Light, beautiful, beautiful blue soul energy. He actually came into my flame, like actually merged his soul flame with mine for a period of time to stabilize me while I was going through all of this. Because when I was in this dynamic, it was chaos. Like energetically for me, it was absolute just yeah, chaotic nightmare. And there was so many reasons for that I'm not going to go into, but it's just like different emotional dynamics and things that he was doing and things that I was doing, and then being on other sides of the world. And like, there was just so much polarity in the whole dynamic, and it felt like constantly being on two ends of a rubber band with him. It was just like always on the edge, you know. So then what happened was this extra high dimensional energy came in, merged his flame energy with mine, and actually sat in my flame and stabilized with me, and I could feel his energy. And I have this beautiful story of I used to joke and say I've got this high dimensional lover, because that's what it felt like, you know, that's what it actually felt like, at the level of closeness. It was like I have my, you know, like my high dimensional boyfriend. And I joked around with him and I said, oh, can you send me a little romantic gift? And his thing is blue roses. He sends me blue roses. And I actually got one on my Instagram the other day. Sorry, on my Pinterest, one came through. But yeah, so on that particular day, I was like, I just, you know, put my hand on my heart and was like, can you send me a gift? And then I opened up my Instagram, and literally like first photo that's there is this bright blue rose that's in his exact frequency. I was just like, this is amazing.
Wow. Not many people can lay claim to that one, hey?
Yeah.
Although I have like a story like that. I once went to a planet in the Sirian star system, and I rocked up and I was guided to this building, and this building was this woman and two children, or this blue feminine character. And I was like, oh, it's you. And she was like, she did something like, she looked like, she was really displeased with me. And she said something, but why have you come in that form? Like, you're not meant to be here like that. Because I'd come in my light body, and she was in her like more physicalized body with our children. And it was so funny. I was like, oh shit, okay. And then I came back, left the meditation, came back out. I was like, oh crap, like I've messed up my interdimensional other planetary relationship while I'm here on Earth. And it sort of like stuck with me for a while. Actually, I ended up going back to the same place, but I didn't meet her face to face, and I ended up resolving it telepathically. And she was just like, yeah, get back to Earth, continue with your mission, sort of thing. But yeah, I just think it's so like what you're tapping into there is like the dynamic nature of relationships and all of these things. And like the twin flame thing is like this very solid concept, but it's not necessarily that. And I think there's so many ways we can relate. And I was also getting, while we are here, to me and you coming together, we're creating infinity as well. It's like here we're having a co-creation, and here so much like opens up in my field and in your field, and stuff just comes, drops in, and we open up to infinity. And so it's not, yeah, it seems to like, it's not actually about one other human body form thing going on necessarily. It's more about creation and coming back to that. And
right. In saying that though, you know, I think that concept can be very challenging. It's challenged me on so many levels,
yes.
you know, because Like then if we go back to 3D Eesha, who's coming from like a cultural Indian background of, you know, like very like patriarchal society and very conservative, and you marry one person and you stay with them forever, and like all of those belief systems. And then coming into, oh, but at the higher dimensional levels, none of that stuff actually matters. And then trying to marry up the two worlds, it's definitely a process. I think one of the biggest things you have to let go of is this idea that there's only one way to relate, because there's just so much variation in that. And I think it's just about making conscious choices of what you want to experience in the moment. Now, in saying that, divine union or sacred union is very much a real thing. And I know twin flame couples, including ones where they're on the higher dimensions, where they are in sacred union and they are not seeing other people and they're not having other energies in that field. And those sorts of dynamics are actually can be very beneficial for ascension as well. So actually, I know this is the thing, like most of the twin flame couples I know actually have twin flames in the higher dimensions, and most of the people have are in sacred union. So they're not seeing other people, and they have this really strong flame connection coming through the higher dimensions, which means that those people are single on earth, but they're connected to their twin flame.
And what's that like? Is it just like a more powerful energy like we're talking about then? That person becomes as a...
It's not more or less powerful. It's just...
Yeah,
it's just what is required at certain times. Like, I mean, I can't speak from that place because I'm not in that dynamic at the moment. I'm not in like a real solid sacred union with my twin flame. I know that there is a chance that may happen for me. I have consciously chosen to not do that right now as well. There's definitely been opportunities for that to happen, and that's not what I want in this life at this time for myself. And so this is where there is an element of free will in that. If I wanted to choose that, I know that I could choose that, and I could, you know, like not have partner, not have kids in this life, like not do any of those things. And I could be in total sacred union with a higher dimensional being. And I mean, I imagine I'll be perfectly content in that space. You know, I think it's quite blissful when you're in that connectedness.
No, that would suit you well, actually.
Well, I've had glimpses of that, and I know what it feels like, and I know that it is one of the most blissful experiences that you can have. But then there's also this idea of being human and being here on earth. And, you know, I mean, again, I can only speak for myself when I say that, like, for the age that I am, the experience that I'm having right now, for me to be in sacred union with a higher dimensional being is not something that I want right this very second. I know that it's available to me the second that I choose to go into it, and I can definitely make that choice. Do I want that right now? No, I don't. Like, it's just, and also it doesn't feel like it's in the highest alignment for me, because this is the other thing I check in with, you know, if there's potentials for creation in other avenues, then you can go and you can make choices around how you actually want to experience things in this lifetime. It's all about choice, really. I think the biggest key takeaway in this though is like, don't get attached to things being one particular way, because it may not be one particular way. It may shift and change, and it may grow. And my thing is, I've always said this, my mission comes first. And if doing what I'm here to do requires me to be in sacred union with my twin flame, then I'll do that. I have absolutely no problem doing that. I will always do what's in the highest good for all people. But if what's required right now is for me to be more, you know, connected into the 3D and be more in that sort of realm, then I'll do that too. And I will enjoy both equally. You know, they'll be both enjoyable. And this is where people get really caught up in this idea that if they're not in a twin flame relationship, it's like they don't want anything else. I'm like, no, just go and be happy with the relationships that you have. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody's your twin flame or not. You can have deep unconditional love for anyone, because ultimately, if you love another person, it comes down to the love that you have for yourself as well. And if you again really want to love your twin flame, go love yourself. Like, actually just go learn to love yourself so deeply that every relationship you enter is a deep, unconditionally loving relationship, without getting caught up in labels, without getting caught up in titles. And yeah, people might come into your field and they might be a massive catalyst for you. And you may be inclined to think, oh, maybe this person's my twin flame. The only way to know if somebody's your twin flame is to actually go into your deep meditation and connect with the internal flame. That is the only way. And I actually have a lot of beef against people who go around telling people if other people are in twin flame relationships or not, because nobody should tell you if you are in a twin flame relationship with someone else or not. And I'm so grateful that my spiritual mentors and people around me never actually told me whether this person was my twin flame or not. And I asked so many times. Even my guides wouldn't tell me. Nobody would tell me if that person was my twin flame. I had to work it out for myself, and that's the only way that it should be done. And again, I'm framing this, guys, because whenever I do talks like this, everybody, you know, sends me messages on Messenger and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, Eesha, can you tell me if so and so is my twin flame?" I'm not going to tell you, because I personally feel that if you truly understand a twin flame connection, you will never tell somebody else if someone is their twin flame or not.
Yeah.
It's so out of integrity.
And if you're actually in one, it's like, you don't need the external validation.
Exactly. The fact that you even have to question it means it's
Yeah.
not a twin flame dynamic. Because if you're in a twin flame dynamic, you know you're in a twin flame dynamic. And it's actually, there is a solidarity and a smoothness in that. You know, most people think they're in a twin flame dynamic because they go on the internet and they read about all this chaos and the 10 signs of awakening and whatever other, you know, clickbait blogs there are on the topic. And most of them are so fake. Like, it's not even remotely accurate to what a true twin flame connection is like, because a true twin flame connection has so much alignment and so much solidarity that you do not have to question for a second if that person is your twin flame, because it's literally you. And again, the fact that I had to question with this other person meant that it wasn't.
Wow. So did you
and that was one of the ways that I actually figured out that it wasn't, because when I went on this journey a couple of years ago of really like questioning, I was like, it's been 3 years. I'm like, I want to know the answer. I want to know the truth. And one of the points I came to understand was that the fact that I was even questioning it for that long should tell me the answer straight away that it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you'd know, and you'd know beyond this mental sort of thing. And
yeah. And I don't need oracle cards to tell me that. I don't need readers to tell me that. I don't even need to go into my flame to tell me that. Like, that inner knowing of a twin flame connection is so deep. And it's something that there's actually a lot of subtlety in, but there's also a lot of, it's something that I can trust fully. It's something I can fully trust in. It's something I have full faith in, because when I'm connected to my flame, I know I'm connected to my flame. I don't need anyone else to tell me if I am or not. Yeah. And I would never ask that. I would never ask somebody else to tell me who my twin flame is.
Yeah. Wow. One thing I was just thinking, do you think everyone has a twin flame? I still don't. Why don't I like
everyone has their one flame.
Everyone has their one flame. Everyone has their, okay. How would you translate this to someone that is just waking up? Because someone that's not been in the inner heart.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Yeah, I just want to ground this more, and I don't know if it's possible. Hey? But yeah, okay.
You got to do the work, man. You got to do the work. Like, if you want to start throwing around words like twin flame, you gotta be willing to go all in. I
was reluctant to throw around this word, hey, and that's why I'm feeling like I'm not gonna go all in on twin flame. I don't on anything but myself. That's all I can really speak about.
The journey of finding your twin flame is really the journey of finding yourself. If you want to find your twin flame, find yourself.
Yeah.
Go be on the spiritual journey for the sake of being on it and for the sake of finding out all about you. Because when you find out about you, you will find your twin flame. The two are so hand in hand.
Isn't that the same as like anything spirituality?
Yes, exactly. This is why everybody needs to ditch the hype on twin flames and be like, let's just go back to connecting with the oneness. Let's just go back to sitting in that one space. Because as you sit in that space with yourself and you stop seeking outside of yourself for, you know, that wholeness or that completeness, what happens is you actually find more of you. And when you find more of you, of course your flame is part of that. Of course the expansion is part of course you start to understand your higher self and your soul energies and the ray that you come from, and you keep, you know, going in those layers. It's just a part of the journey. But if you're focused on, oh, I must find my twin flame, or I need my twin flame to make me feel whole, you're missing the whole point of the spiritual journey, which is that it is a journey of oneself, and oneself is the all self, which is everything and nothing in the whole universe. And so, like, if somebody's just starting out, waking up on this journey, I would say don't even bother talking about twin flames. Like, go sit in meditation for a few years and then we'll come back to this topic.
Yeah. I was getting as well. It's like, how do you find your spirit guide? It's like, it's the same question. Because I like, they come when you're in meditation and you're peaceful, and then they arrive. It's sort of like you don't really have to look for them when you're connected to yourself.
Yeah, I will say for people that are just starting out, I would say the best starting point is actually to connect with your higher self. That is the best starting point. That is the best energy to connect with, especially if you're going to be doing anything like channeling and stuff. Like, don't channel anyone that's not your higher self, because your higher self ultimately is the overarching energy that all of your soul rays, all of your soul aspects come from. So if you're trying to expand your awareness of self, connect to your higher self.
Yeah, love it, love it.
And your twin flame is part of that. So it's one of the little nuances that come in from that connection.
Oh, you think it's like one of the rays, one of the threads of light?
Well, you and your twin flame, well, the one flame is the one higher self. So if you connect to your higher self, in a way, you've already connected to your twin flame.
So would you say they're the same? Because I'm very familiar with my higher self and that energy, and I feel that.
There are nuances and distinctions in that, because when you're connected to, like, actually connected to your flame energy, you're connected from source all the way through all soul aspects, because the higher self level isn't the highest level of awareness. There's actually like higher soul aspects above that. So if you think about, like, there's 3D self, and then there's like 5D self, and then you get to higher self, which is like all the selves, and it's like an umbrella term, and then there's other umbrella terms above that. What happens when you connect with the twin flame energy is that there's a direct ray connection from source into 3D, and you're actually anchoring that flame through all the dimensional realities. So there is a slight distinction in that, but that ray would go through the higher self level to get to you. So that's what I mean by, if you're just starting out, you can start by connecting to higher self, because through the higher self, you will connect to the twin flame one way or another.
Yeah. So does that ray then split just before it gets to Earth?
There's no splitting. There is no splitting. That's the biggest misconception. There is no splitting of the ray. The ray does not split. The ray is able to be completely intact and express in counterparts. There is no splitting of the ray.
Is that just my mind's not getting that? Like the mind's not understanding that? How can, like, if there's two beings, but they're just...
Imagine you have a beam of light that's coming down like this.
Yeah.
And that's the twin flame. And then you get to Earth, and it just makes a little triangle, and it expands, and both of you are in that light.
Oh, I'm just looking at a triangle. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. That's definitely unlocked.
Yeah. So they're still together. It's not like it goes into two beams of light. It's just an expanded beam of light with multiple people in that.
Do you think there could even be 3 people in that?
Look, I have asked this question many times. I, in my experience, have not seen it to be true on Earth. I think trying to have 3 people in that dynamic is crazy. I think 2 is hard enough, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, even if we just take a super expanded look, it's like it all is just one ray, and it's all just... The whole universe is made from a triangle, really. It's like that's the first geometric shape, and it's like we're all just this one big source ray, and we're all twin flames with everyone.
Then there is truth in that layer as well, because then as you go up, like, so for me, for example, coming through the Gabriel ray, it's like I'm connected to all of that, and then you go up even higher and you get to source, and yes, we're all one. It's all just a lens that you're perceiving through. But there is a particular frequency that I feel with twin flames. And I just know this because, I've met so many people that are, well, a few people that are in those twin flame dynamics. And so, like, for example, my friend and her galactic twin flame, I've been in their flame. I've actually sat in their flame. I know what that energy feels like. It's a very specific frequency. And when people are holding that frequency, I can feel it. And the majority of people that have come to me and said, I'm in a twin flame dynamic, when I see their energies, it's more of like the blue, red, and the gold, which is what I was in that dynamic with the soul merge. Very rarely do I actually see a true twin flame dynamic.
Which would just, not just be the gold, it'd just be a whole different...
It's one flame.
Yeah. Amazing, right?
It's like one energy.
This is like the key sort of takeaway. There is no 2 flames. There's no twins.
In fact, if you're seeing 2 flames, I guarantee it's not a twin flame connection.
Amazing. All right. Wow. Where else can we go with this? I mean, someone did ask, and you already sort of did touch upon it, like, why are they in the galactic? Why is one on Earth? Why is the one galactic? Is that because there's be too powerful? Why do they do this? That was the question.
It's just easier. Like when you have when the whole ray comes down into the 3D with multiple parts, there's more distortion in that.
Yeah, and there'd just be too much like, yeah. What it wouldn't,
because they enter the polarity field.
Yeah,
you're taking a singular flame into a polarity field. There's so much tension in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like that almost couldn't exist.
It definitely can. It can exist quite easily too, because when both people awaken and they are holding that 5D frequency, then they're in a unified field consciousness anyway. And so it's definitely doable. I think there's a few extra levels of challenge to getting to that point, particularly if people have had difficult lives, or I mean, you just don't know the backstories, that people have. So I imagine it would be, it'll be challenging to anchor at times.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, some people also do it so beautifully. So, it's just love. Like if you can just love that person, you can love yourself. It's like, ultimately it comes down to how much you love yourself, because the more you love yourself, the less resistance there is with that connection.
Yeah, I hear you. Wow, amazing. Well, I feel like I understand it now. I feel like I understand it in a way that like there's almost like no point knowing anything else, or there's no point searching, there's no point trying to get anywhere outside of myself and looking at information outside of myself, that it just doesn't exist. It's like, okay, I'll just deepen my connection with myself, and it just seems to be the message. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I mean, look, the journey, there's so many layers to it. Like if you did want to explore this further, you could just go into, which I know you're already doing, Dylan, but for anyone watching this, is like going into those layers of self, like accessing, your 5D self or your higher self aspects. And of course, when I say this, the obvious questions that are going to come are like, how do I do that? Which, guys, I have a lovely group program that you may join in which I teach people how to do this stuff. But yeah, it comes down to just having the right tools and the right practices. And of course, anyone who wants to go down that road, you're welcome to connect with me. In saying that, if you guys message me and be like, I want to join your program to connect with my twin flame, I'll be like, no. Because like, if you've learned anything from this talk, it's like, just let it go, guys. Let it go, man. Because it's not the most important part of this life. I mean, you have to let go of that obsession of that there is something, outside of myself that's going to complete me, because that's where a lot of the searching for twin flames comes from. If your true searching is like a wanting to deepen and expand within yourself, the twin flame will naturally come as part of that. And that's where a lot of the tools and practices and programs that I have can help you deepen in that. So, I mean, I suppose that kind of wraps that up.
I agree. I'm a living testimony to such truth. So amazing. Oh, well, thank you, Eesha. Thanks for coming on. What are we going to talk about next week?
Pick my brains, Dylan.
I was thinking about money.
We can definitely do money. I have a whole new downloads on money, actually.
New downloads on money. Okay.
Yeah. We can do higher dimensional wealth. That's always a good one. Or quantum business is always a good one.
Yeah. Or even new monetary systems and what money will look like in 10 years' time. And
yeah, we can do all things money next week. I think that'll be an excellent topic.
All right. Okay. Sounds like that's what we're going to do. No worries. Great. Love it. All right. Thanks so much, Eesha. Thanks for coming on. And
thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us. And money next week, apparently. So we'll same time, same day. And hopefully it all works out live, because this actually didn't work live. It's actually not many people have been watching this live. So you're all on the replay. So welcome to the replay. And we should be live next week.
Streaming. I was going to ask you that. I can't see it.
I thought you said you saw it. It's on my Facebook. I can see it. It's right there. But
I can't. I'll have to go check it later.
No one else can either. So I hope it's
okay. We'll let you fix it up later, and we'll catch you guys next week.
All right. I'm going to live stream now. So thanks everyone.